Where's Waldo, or Where's Wally if you're in the UK, is an iconic book series created by British author and illustrator Martin Handford. First published in 1987, the 7 primary books follow Waldo and his cast in increasingly bizarre and wild landscapes, while you, the reader, are tasked to find him within the chaos. I have the first 5 out of 7 books. We have Where's Waldo, published in 1987, Where's Waldo Now, published in 1988, Where's Waldo Fantastic Journey, published in 1989, Where's Waldo in Hollywood, published in 1993, and Where's Waldo, the Wonder Book, published in 1997. The 2 I will not talk thoroughly into are Where's Waldo, the Great Hunt, published in 2006, and Where's Waldo, the Incredible Paper Chase, published in 2009. So let's backtrack and start from the beginning. What is Where's Waldo in its essence? The genre that we could put Where's Waldo into is called Filmer Bilder Book, which I'm sure I'm mispronouncing, but translates from German into teeming picture book. These are typically defined by large, full-scale, full-spread drawings that are filled with complex scenes of objects and characters where the reader can discover them throughout. This genre seemed to have emerged as early as the 15th century with Hieronymus Bosch's incredibly complex landscapes, most notably the Garden of Earthly Delights. Although these aren't in a book format, they still follow the same principles that Waldo does. Other notable artists include Peter Bruegel the Elder, Richard Scarry, Hans-Jürgen Press, Mitsumasa Anno, and Ali Mitsgush. But somehow, Martin Handford absolutely dominated the market. In this genre, specifically Handford's model has seemed to expand even further in the modern day, moving from page to screen. The smartphone game, June's Journey Hidden Objects, rated by 65,000 people on the App Store with an average of 4.5 out of 5 stars, is a type of hidden object game. Not only do they exist on the App Store, but they're also on the Nintendo Shop and the Steam Store and other sorts of digital means of buying these games. There are practically thousands of hidden object games, but none of them seem to bring us back like Waldo does. So why does it work? What's so special about Waldo? In an article for the LA Times, Handford explained the creation of the Waldo character. He and the publishers decided that they needed an iconic character to search for within the complicated spreads. Someone at the Walker Book Publishing Company actually said, "Wouldn't it be good if you were looking at an individual within that crowd rather than just looking at a crowd?" Thus, the striped red and white shirt and bobble hat were born. There was also an original intention to make him seem idiotic in ways that explained why he was getting lost in strange landscapes. Wally, his original name and UK version, actually stands in the dictionary besides dunce, Nimrod, and airhead as slang, specifically British slang for a stupid person. But as time went on, Waldo transformed into a more open-minded personality. He became kind and cool, and not as weird as he first started. So we also have 5 characters within the cast of Waldo. We have Waldo, of course. Then we have Wenda, which is like his female counterpart and best friend. We have Woof, which is his dog. Oddlaw, who is his arch nemesis and complete opposite, so he wears opposing colors to the red and white, instead it's yellow and black. And then we have Wizard Whitebeard. Each of these characters has an object associated with them that are also to be found within the books. Each of these objects actually plays an integral part of the book by informing the audience of these characters' roles and character traits. So, Waldo's key represents him being inquisitive. Wenda has a camera, and that makes her creative. Wizard Whitebeard has a scroll, and that makes him intelligent. Oddlaw has binoculars, and that makes him nosy. And Woof has a bone, which makes him a dog. Appearing in the first 4 volumes is an additional 25 characters known as the Waldo Watchers. They are a diverse group of children, all dressed in the likeness of Waldo, and seem to kind of be his fans. You can also see in his texts in the books, he calls the reader a Waldo Watcher, so it seems to be that we are part of the book now. Although primarily targeted towards children, Where's Waldo seems to have captivated audiences young and old. This was done, I believe, by implementing levels into the books. The first level I would define as the easiest, simplest thing that can be done by the youngest person, and it's find Waldo. We know his name, we know what we're supposed to do, we're kind of given a prompt on the cover of the page, and this is good for young children who can't read large blocks of text yet, but maybe they can read a few words with the help of an adult. And we're given his image. So we know what he looks like. He's also shown on the cover right there. This exercises the parts of our brains that recognizes images and finds them within other images. So the next level, level 2, is when we might feel like it's gotten a bit too easy. We found all the Waldos and we want to do more. So now we'll open the book and we'll look at the smaller images here and we'll recognize that there are a main cast, and we'll also look for those. Level 3, which is pretty similar to level 2, is at this point we'll feel like, okay, we've done all that, now we want an actual challenge. So we'll look for the 25 Waldo watchers, we'll look for the objects associated with each character. Level 4 is where we really step it up, because up until now we've had visual cues, we've had visual hints telling us what we're supposed to be looking for. But at this point now we have to try to look for things without having a visual aid. At the back of every single Waldo book we have a checklist of what we're supposed to find within each picture. It's a pretty dense list, and some of these things even I have trouble finding. Some of them are a bit obvious and are a bit on the nose, for example, 2 fire engines or a burning bridge. But others might be a bit more complex. The prompts at the back of the book actually seem to be a bit easier in the first volume, but as we read through these, we actually find out that they're pretty hard to find. I think the biggest thing that Hanford employs here is the use of visual puns. For example, in Where's Waldo in Hollywood, a double agent in a spy film. Now, when we first think of that, we think of an agent who's a spy who works for 2 different teams. But if we flip to that page and we search for this, what we're going to find, 2 men wearing the same coat as a double spy. So here we're exercising the muscles in our brain and understanding that things can mean 2 different things at once. Also, we're starting to learn visual vocabulary. For example, one of the prompts we have is a romantic scene. What you'll find is a man and a woman, and one of them is holding flowers, they're holding hands, and around them, all of the stage lights have turned into hearts. So here we're understanding a visual vocabulary that hearts equals romance. Now the 5th level, this is when you've kind of checked off all the obvious, all of the things that are directly told to you, and this is where you read further and you find there's more stuff to do in literally every book. So in the first 4 volumes, we're actually told that there's an extra character hidden in every single image, but we're not told what they look like and we're not told who they are. Also in the first 4 books, we're told that one of the Waldo watchers has lost his bauble off of his hat, so we have to find both him and the lost bauble. And this is throughout the entire book. We have to find one thing. So it's kind of more difficult because we're not told like what page they're on at all. In the 3rd, 4th, and 5th volume, on the last image, there's actually a collection of characters, one from each of the previous pages, that followed Waldo to the last page. So you can look for those as well. There's also a few things that each book has unique to them, so I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. Where's Waldo Now, in the last page, instructs the viewer to find a book that Waldo lost in each of the pages. The Land of Waldos is our first time seeing an imposter page, which basically shows us a ton of Waldos, and we have to find the real one. We're given a hint that he's missing a shoe, so we must find the shoeless Waldo and also find his missing shoe somewhere on the page. And here you can see an example of characters that are from previous pages that have joined us here on the last image. In Where's Waldo in Hollywood, the first spread actually features 4 posters. Each of these is another page in the book. And what you're supposed to do is find the differences between these and the actual pages. There's also another example of an imposter page with Where's Waldo the Musical, which is the last spread again in Where's Waldo in Hollywood. And here we must find not only the real Waldo, but the real rest of the cast, as there are a bunch of actors here, and we're given the hints of who are the real ones in this blurb. Also, in the end, there's always like a little something going on telling us that there's more to look for. This one has a lot. So if you flip to the first spread, we have a bunch of Waldo Oscars. There are 10 here that are different from the rest. So that's a fun little challenge. Additionally, in each of these sprockets is a little character, and almost every one of these is featured somewhere in the book. So you must figure out which 10 are not featured and then find them within the book. So that's something even I don't think I would do, and that's something when you've really felt like you've wrung the book out to its fullest. And then finally, in the Wonder book, there are a few extra things to look for. We have a similar instance of an imposter page with the Odd Law Swamp, where there are a lot of odd laws, and you have to find the real one. And we are given a hint of which one he is in the text. We then flip to the Corridors of Time, and here it's kind of crazy. So in the text here, we're told that there are a bunch of clocks and only one of them tells a different time while the others all tell the same time. So you have to figure out which one that is. Also, above every door is a key, and you have to find each of these unique keys in the crowd that associate to those doors. And then we have another imposter page. This is the land of woofs. So here we have a bunch of woofs who are not our real woofs. Then lastly, on the back page, there's a little blurb that explains to us, if you flip to the front, these are two sets of the same images. There are 10 differences between the left and the right. So that's another thing to look for. Also, additionally, in the Wonder Book is a clown who follows Waldo through all of the pages. But on one of the pages, his hat is a different color. So you have to find out where he is in each page and also find out which page he has a different colored hat. Honestly, I don't think I could complete all of these in a lifetime. It seems like really challenging to keep track of this stuff, but if you can even believe it, it gets harder. So if we look at the first book and we open to the first image, you might notice something compared to the other images I've showed you. This kind of looks bland. It kind of looks like there's a lot of white space. There's not that many characters. Well, actually, Ben Blatt did an article for Slate magazine, and in it, he discovered that Hanford actually chose to make Waldo smaller and smaller as the series went on. In the first image, in the first book, there are approximately 225 characters. The first page in the last book contains approximately 850 characters. All of these books are printed at the same size, so you can imagine that Waldo just had to get smaller, and the negative space had to be reduced. So, and I quote, in the first book, Waldo averaged close to a square centimeter. By the 7th book, Waldo was only 0.2 square centimeters. He described this phenomenon, called book inflation, in which an author's first unexpected big hit comes out, and then often after they'll release a sequel or a series where the word count increases while the quality decreases. His examples provided included Twilight, the 50 Shades series, and Harry Potter. The Waldo series appeared to do the same thing but with character quantity, and I'd argue an increase in quality. Maybe this is a symptom of me getting older, but kids these days need to get off their damn phones. Because there was just something so wonderful about me and my sister sitting on the couch, and we'd crack one of these bad boys open, and each of us would take one side of the spread, and we just look for the objects that were listed on the back page, and then we'd come back week after week, and we'd do this, and we'd look at these pages until our eyes hurt because of how tiny these characters are. For some reason, in the Where's Waldo Now version, my family really, really loved it, because if you try to open it up, you'll find that it kind of just falls apart, because the pages have been really looked at a lot. So looked at that it's just broken. And you can actually look really closely and you can see that all of these were checked off. You can also find in the Wonder Book that there are just scribbles all throughout that. So I guess I got my hands on it. Even though these books weren't exactly stressing our linguistic skills, although you could argue that the visual puns were in fact stressing those exact skills, our problem-solving skills and our creativity was just shooting through the roof. We were looking through these books and creating our own stories. One of the things I really loved about Waldo is in, let's just say, Fantastic Journey, Be Great Ball Game Players. In the text, we're told that there are 4 teams that were playing against another, but was anyone winning? What was the score? Can you figure out the rules? And I really like that it was so open-ended that we're supposed to look at this and we're supposed to find the Easter eggs. We're supposed to find what did Hanford have in mind when he made these drawings? And we actually just create our own stories that way, instead of maybe reading those blurbs that I wasn't bothered to read as a kid. So I'm actually looking at these 15 years later than I probably originally did, and I'm finding new things to enjoy, and I think that is what the charm of Waldo is. When you have an app or you have a game that just tells you this is an object, look for it in a picture, you're kind of not challenged in the same way Waldo does, as there are no correct answers because there's no key, there's no legend. We're just told to find it and to enjoy ourselves, and I think that's what I really love about Waldo.